Welcome everybody to another Indie Dev Showcase video here on the channel. Every Wednesday night we stream nothing but indie games, and these videos are the recap sessions from them. The majority of these games are played with press keys, but we also play demos as well. And we're going to start with one such press key. This is Primal Light, and this is a 2D action game in similar to the vein of stuff like Odalis or Curse Castelia. It's a modern retro take on 2D action adventure. We started as this golem-looking guy whose village has been attacked by an evil god, and it's up to us to explore for some magical MacGuffins and save the day. The pixel art in this game I think looks fairly nice. Some of the enemy details, especially the bosses, are really well done, as well as the backgrounds. But our main gameplay mode, as you can see, is run, jump, and slash. You do gain some upgrades as you play through, but you cannot return to previous levels, so it's not exactly a Metroidvania. There are hidden items you can find. You can equip, I think, 2 or 3 different artifacts that will enhance you in some way. And the game featured, I believe it was 6 levels. It's been a few months since we played this, and we did show off a full play of it here on the channel. But from a gameplay standpoint, Primal Light feels good to play. Your character is very responsive, you move at a very good clip. It doesn't feel like I was fighting with the controls. With that said, this game may be a little too old school in some aspects for people. There are a lot of death traps in this game, such as touching the lava here, and you have a limited number of lives. You can spend currency to get more of them, but there are only a fixed number of them throughout the game. If you run out of lives, I believe you get a continue or 2. If you run out of continues, you have to restart the entire game from scratch. Now, please keep in mind that that was how this game was played at 1.0. And since then, I don't know the developer has done any updates or changes to that kind of design. But this is another example of a very competent game. It doesn't do anything, breaking the norms of the genre, but it's overall very solid. And if you enjoy games like Odalis, Slain, Valfaris, and so on, I would say give this one a check, and I think you're going to enjoy it. If you don't like challenging, old school style design, you may not want to play this one. You get easily frustrated by instant death pits and such. For our next game, we turn to Gibbous, a Cthulhu adventure. This was a Kickstarter game that was released and done in the classic point-and-click adventure style. So games like Sam & Max, Monkey Island, and the heyday of LucasArts. But our story involves our hero here, who under some very weird circumstances gets a hold of the Necronomicon, and then uses its magic powers to make his cat able to speak. And thus begins a Lovecraftian adventure across multiple environments in order to get his cat to stop talking and maybe save the world from the impending cosmic horror. So, the gameplay, again, this is classic point-and-click adventure. So you're going to be clicking on lots of hotspots, picking up random miscellaneous items, and trying to solve puzzles, either through logic or just mashing things together and hoping something gets solved. The game moves through as a chapter-by-chapter format, with each chapter having its own self-contained puzzles and, one major puzzle that will let you move on to the next piece. Items, for the most part, are locked to their respective chapters, and the game does avoid a lot of the old-school difficulty spikes, so there's no death riddles, no ways to actually lose the game. And you'll switch between our hero here and another character as they go about their business solving this mystery. The writing is very good. There's a lot of, again, self-referential humor and such about this whole situation. Puzzle design, I would say this is on the, moderate, maybe moderately difficult side. It's not as old school difficult as, some of the other games that we've seen. And I would say I would put this a step above something like the Wadget Eye games in terms of puzzle difficulty. Usually you're going to have to use the nearby items, and the logic makes sense within the world itself. There aren't tons and tons of things you're going to be picking up in the game, so you don't have to worry about an overcrowded inventory. And your inventory does get reduced whenever you move from chapter to chapter. Now again, with this being an adventure game, it means that I really can't show too much of it all without just outright spoiling the game. The footage that you're seeing is very early on. This is, I think, chapter 1. And I did play several chapters in on my own. So the game definitely got a little bit on the challenging side just in terms of the puzzle logic. But again, nothing that an old school fan should get too worried about. If you are a fan of adventure games, anything from Witchway, Sam & Max, and the slew of indie games that have come out in the last decade, I would say give Gibbous a fair try. If you don't like the genre, I don't think this game will do anything to change your mind otherwise from the many quirks of it. But with that, we turn to RiftWizard. And this is a game that is in early access, and we did get a press key for it. And this is a very interesting take on kind of traditional roguelike design. Our mission is that we're going to have to go through, I believe it was 20 levels, defeat all the enemies in each stage, and fight the big bad at the end. This is done in classic roguelike tradition. So this is, again, turn-based, and it features a WeGo system. Now, the twist of RiftWizard is that when you start playing the game, you'll choose how you build your character from a very huge pool of passives, spells, and other abilities. I believe more becomes unlocked as you play through and complete specific conditions. But all your spells and abilities are conditional, or there's a limit on them, usually based on the number of attacks you can do, number of items you have, and there are ways to refill and replenish it. Now, the challenge, of course, is that you are just, one wizard, and it's very easy to get surrounded by enemies. And once you are surrounded, there's not much that you can do to get away from that threat. But as you can see what's on the screen right now, there are a lot of skills, and one of the issues I think this game has from an onboarding perspective is that it falls into that classic RPG trap of, we're going to give you everything right from the get-go, try and make some sense out of it before you can even begin playing the game. Now, if you are a fan of traditional roguelike design, this should become second nature, but it does, again, hurt how approachable this game is if you didn't grow up playing the traditional roguelike design. With that said, I do like what I see here. It's a very interesting take. It's more streamlined, again, with only having, I think, 20 levels compared to other roguelike style games. And it does, I think, a good job for what it has. If you are a fan of traditional roguelikes, then I would definitely recommend this game. But if the thought of playing something like this doesn't work for you, then again, RiftWizard is not going to change your mind on that design. And I'm hoping that since we play this, and we looked at this on stream, this was, I think, right around the first early access version, the developer has added more in terms of content, or just making things easier to process. With that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we got 3 more games to look at for this spotlight. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. We now turn to the game Death and Taxes. This was one of the games we got from the itch.io Mega Bundle earlier in 2020, and it's a very interesting take on kind of the, I guess, passive morality story of something like Papers, Please. Our concept is that we play as a Grim Reaper who apparently life and death now has become an office job. And your mission is to essentially decide who lives and who dies on a day-to-day basis, with the game kind of dictating to you that your choices matter, and there's always that interesting hook of, do I follow directions? What happens if I don't? And again, kind of that moral dilemma. Now, my problem with Death and Taxes, even though it has a very stylish look to it, and the concept is very unique, is that the gameplay kind of lacks the bite of something like Papers, Please. In that game, you had to not only make tough choices, but you had to kind of follow the bureaucracy of, working the bridge or the station. In this game, your choices are just simply reduced to kill or don't kill. And again, the game tries to throw a little bit more at you in terms of having a quota for the day, and, saying that your choices matter. But it's one of those games where quote-unquote choices matter simply just affect an ending, and not exactly how you play through this game. And I'm sure we could play this and just close our eyes and pick who lives and dies, and get the same experience if we actually did our job and paid really close attention to it. And it seems very much like a game designed around, just the reaction of it rather than the gameplay. And I was hoping that we would see more of kind of the hard edge of something like Papers, Please, and the fact that you had to not only think about what's going on in the station, but of course your family and your household. If you found Papers, Please to be too stressful of a game, and you're looking for something with similar design, then I think Death and Taxes would be a good fit for you. For our next game, we turn to another itch.io bundle game, and this is Witchway. This is a puzzle platformer, with our main mechanic being this ability to shoot a block and then manipulate it. Some blocks can only be moved left to right or kind of as a jump, some can hover or be moved around endlessly, and your job is to get your character here through this massive sewer dungeon in search of bunny rabbits, who are, for some reason, are mysteriously found here. From the general gameplay, this is one of those titles that fits in that theme of one solid mechanic and exploring all the different ways that you can make use of said mechanic. And there are hidden routes, multiple puzzles for you to solve, and the game does hint at finding kind of secret routes to get all the bunny rabbits and all the mysteries solved. And overall, I think this is a very cute game. It's challenging enough, I think, for this kind of design. There's a lot of secrets that the game doesn't quite give you any clue as to where they are. You just kind of have to solve around for anything mysterious. And if you're looking for, I think, another really solid puzzle platformer, give Witchway a shot. It does require some platforming skill, but this is definitely more focused on the puzzle solving than, brutally difficult platforming. Speaking about brutally difficult, we turn to the Meat Zone, aka Golden Light. This is it's billed as a survival horror action roguelike. And this is essentially, what if David Lynch made a roguelike? So we are stuck in the Meat Zone. I'm not kidding, that's the name of this place. Our, girlfriend / wife has been kidnapped and has been dragged to the bottom of the zone. And it's up to us to explore this very strange and weird dimension in order to figure out what's going on and save her. And fight things like that. And Golden Light definitely wears its survival horror trappings on its sleeves or whatever appendages that you can think of for a game like this. So, first off, as you can tell, this is a very atmospheric and claustrophobic game. The field of view is kept very small for that feeling of what the heck is going on. So the rules of the game are that every time you start a new run, all the kind of modifiers for items or your kind of bonus trinkets, if you look on the left hand side of the fish head, their rules or their functions are randomized or shuffled. Think of it as the potions from classic roguelike games. So in one run, it could heal you, another run it could poison you, etc., etc. Every weapon in the game has different modifiers to it. These modifiers could let it do fire, it could talk to you, and you can literally eat anything that you can pick up. So that fire axe, I could eat it for health, my map, the same way. And the challenge of Golden Light is that everything is built on durability. And when your weapon begins to break, it will be less effective. And for those of you who watch me, you know I do not like durability systems in games. And it does, unfortunately, become a knock against Golden Light for me. If you are a fan of that kind of level of resource management, then, and you don't mind the weirdness, Golden Light definitely works in that aspect. Now, two things to keep in mind. First, that this was played with a press key provided by a developer several months ago, and that Golden Light is in early access, and it has received multiple updates since this footage was recorded. I believe the game has adjusted its difficulty level, with kind of, I think, easy becoming normal, normal becoming hard, that kind of thing. And like with a lot of these kinds of action roguelikes, or just roguelikes in general, this is a game that's going to be about you figuring out what the rules of this world are and what you need to do to survive. So do not expect to have a winning run on your first, I would say, 5 or 6 different plays of this game. You're going to be running into traps like this, oddities such as teleporting modifiers, and some very strange bosses. Now, at this moment, I know there is some light persistence in terms of being able to keep certain items or start out with a little bit in benefits. I don't know how far they're going to go in terms of persistence as this game continues its early access. But if you don't mind what you're seeing in terms of the field of view and the oddities, there really is nothing like Golden Light on the market right now. And it may be worth it for that sheer weird factor alone. But with that said, we're going to wrap up this week's Indie Spotlight. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you'll find links to the games in the description down below. If you'd like me to play one of your games in the future, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Check out our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below, where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.